1996 on, I was plagued with injuries every year. And so it was very, very difficult keeping fit. I had some problems with my hips and my back, my lower back, that would create injuries and different problems with my hamstring or with my quad. Downstream, down extremities from my hips, my lower back. So I was always, it was just a constant state of managing health and fitness. So despite the fact that I was always managing injuries, I knew that at this point I was actually healthy, and we had been focused on from the beginning of the 1999 season that this is the year to break the world record in the 400 meters. I knew that I was going to retire after Sydney in 2000, and I didn't want to go into that final season with the pressure of having to try to win a gold medal and break a world record. So 99 was the year that I was like, this is the year. So I was focused from the very beginning on getting to that final ready and in position to break the world record. Our strategy for that race, for the prelims, was because there were 4 rounds, it's a long journey. So it was always just manage each round and try to get through it as easily as possible, try to conserve as much as possible. But I did want to, one of our things was for the prelim was to basically try to get out. We knew the key to breaking the world record was going to be able to get the first 60 meters as quick as possible, get up to race pace very, very quickly. So that's what I was working on in that prelim. So when the gun goes off, you'll see that I'll sprint as quickly as possible up to 60 and then start to settle into it. So yeah, already starting to make up the stagger there and putting a gap between myself and lane 5. Now I want to just settle in. And so from this point, typically, I continue pressing pretty hard. And it looks like I am, but this is a prelim. So, with all due respect to the other competitors, these aren't the absolute best in the world. So I'm still not running quite that fast at this point. And I just want to relax at this point now, just relax for the rest of this prelim. And so Cardenas obviously is going to be one of the competitors. So he was up there running well. I decided I'm going to go ahead and win it, but it's not really that critical to win it. So we're both right there side by side. Cardenas may have gotten that, but job done for me. The focus again was just in that first 60 meters, which we were happy with that execution. And what I wanted to do was just really get accustomed to getting out that first 60 really, really quickly, as if I'm running a 200 meters, which mentally is not as easy. It's not that easy to do that when you know that this is not a 200 meters, this is twice the distance. So it's a little bit of fear that, and coach was always saying, hey, you need to get out that first 60 like you're running a 200. Like, yeah, but it's not a 200, coach, it's 400. So that took a little getting used to, and we knew that was going to be the key. And that was the last thing that I needed to get myself comfortable with doing, which is still a little bit scary to get out that hard, knowing that you may pay the price on the back end. That validation after that first round that everything feels good. I felt great in warm up. I had my physio there. My strength coach was there as well. Everybody was there, and my track coach as well also. And sort of everybody just kind of like a bunch of mechanics on a F1 car, just making sure that, everything is right. And I felt great in the warm up, but the validation is always getting through the round. And I felt fantastic after that first round. So I knew, that as long as we can continue to manage this, and I didn't run a lot of races that year. I backed off from the amount of races I run. After 96, when I started to experience the injuries, I would run, 6 or 7 races a year, something like that, a very light load. So knowing that we had those 3 rounds to get to the final, that was going to be some of my races for the year. So there were different things that I was working on throughout each round that I would typically get in races building up to the championships, but I got those in the championship. Mentally, that quarterfinal was always a difficult one. The first one, of course, it's fantastic. You're excited. The championships are getting started. It's the first race. The semifinal is great because it gets you into the final, and the final, of course, is the final. So that quarterfinal was always just kind of okay, we got to do this, and it was just a little odd and a little bit weird. Nobody liked it. No one liked 4 rounds. And what's crazy with this championship, and I'm sure we'll get to it, we had a rest day. So not only did we have 4 rounds, we also had a rest day. That makes up 5 days series to get through this championship, which is a nightmare because once you get started, you just want to get to the final as quick as possible. And so now you have the formality of, a quarterfinal, and then after the semifinal, you're going to have a rest day. So not the best. I much prefer, 3 days, and I would like 3 days in a row if it were me. So this race, again, just getting up to race pace, you see the same thing again. So now I'm getting that pattern, which is, again, we knew from all of the analysis over the years when I had run close to the world record that the key was going to be, you have to look for where is that, where's that time where are you going to make up that time? So the world record was 43:29. My personal best was 43:39. We've got to make up a tenth of a second somewhere. And so we were thinking, I'm going to run 42 seconds. So I've got to make up 2/10. We could find 2/10. We found it at the first part of the race. So here now, this is just going to be, just try to conserve as much energy as possible. You're going to conserve more energy as a 400 meter runner if you use the energy when you have it. It's at the start of the race and then coast at the end of the race. Sometimes you'll see people do it the other way. They'll coast at the beginning of the race and then come down the home stretch like a house on fire, and that takes a lot more. This is the best way to do it, where this feels much, much easier than any practice sessions that I have where I've got, 3x350s, with 3 minutes rest, 80% effort. That's a hard workout. This is a walk in the park compared to that. And that's what you want for that quarterfinal. It is absolutely critical that you know what your competitors are capable of, how they typically execute their race, because as you're executing your own race, you're also having to keep your eye on everyone else and sort of see what they're doing and make decisions in real time as to whether you react to them or whether you don't, whether you make any adjustments to your race or if you don't. So this semifinal, obviously you can tell from my face there, this is serious business. And again, I with every race, that quarterfinal felt really, really good. So, and when your body feels different. In 1996, my body felt different. I was, the way I was able to execute the races just flowed so much more easily. And that's what happened in that quarterfinal. So I knew in this semifinal, I could break the world record, but I'm gonna, it's the final that counts. And the other thing that you're always balancing, this is a championship, I still have to win. So we've been talking about world record, but you still have to win. And you have to do something that you've never done before in order to break a world record. If you do something you've never done before and it works, you break the world record. If you do something you've never done before and it doesn't work, you don't not only not break the world record, you may not win, which at this point I had never lost a championship. Never got a silver, never got a bronze. It's all gold. I want to finish my career with all gold medals. So you're having to balance those two. For me, that takes a tremendous amount of focus, and that's what this is. That's what that is. It's just absolute focus at that point. Nothing else matters right now in this moment other than getting a good, clean reaction to the gun and then running that first 60 meters, getting up to race pace by 60, really, really fast. Then I'll start thinking about what to do down the backstretch. Then I'll start thinking about what the other competitors are doing. But here it's all about get to that pace that I want to race at as quickly as possible. So again, it's consistent now, third time, and that was the thing that coach was looking for, just that, every race I want you at race pace at 60. Now, quickly down the backstretch, but relax. So it's not slowing down, it's just making sure that that pace is much more relaxed now that you're in it. You're not still pushing. For me, it was always then around the top, then push, really, really, really fast. Now, somebody's out there, I think that's Jerome Young from America, was over there, and Mark Richardson on the outside. Again, those guys are running. This is world record pace right here, and I know it, and it's 43.95 slowing down. So I knew again, and that was that little, it's on. I'm there. This is exactly what I want. I was extremely pleased with that race because it was exactly what we were hoping for. And, so I didn't got time to continue to try to help Jerome with his race. I talked to my dad a lot about his event. He always preferred the 400. he liked me in the 400 better than the 200 from day one. From when I was primarily a 200-meter runner, he was always pushing for 400. So when I broke the world record in the 200, he was obviously happy, but it wasn't necessarily the one that he was still waiting for. So we were talking about it, and he had gotten pretty savvy in terms of, you know, what needs to happen in the 400, and he thought, you know, as well that, you know, that execution. My parents were at every championship that I ever ran, so they had seen me and all of the other ones, and he thought that was the best execution. And they both knew, my mom and my dad both knew that, you know, I want to finish my career with the world record in the 400. That's the one thing that's missing. And so they knew that was important to me. So Mark Richardson in his final is in lane 1. That's where he beat me from in Oslo a few years earlier. He beat me from lane 1, and he was running really well, very confident. And that was Greg Houghton, who was my training partner, actually, and had a good race here, had a better one the year later in Sydney, where he got a medal, but was certainly on the rise as well, kind of in the middle of his career. And Antonio Pettigrew, who I had battles with, we battled against one another for years. He beat me once in 1997. That was the first time I ever lost a 400. So Antonio beat me and Mark beat me. So both of the people who beat me in the 2 races I lost during my career are in this race. So Cardenas is going to end up being key here, and I knew that. So the lane draw was interesting because he was going to be on my inside, and you know, he's such a quick starter and just flies down the backstretch, very, very aggressive in the way that he runs. And, you know, I always felt like, look, I'm going to always run my own race. I'm not going to allow anyone else to affect me. So I didn't have any problem with him being on the inside, because I knew that that's a chance he may come up on me down the backstretch because he runs his first 200 just that fast. Again, we talked about this earlier. That's why it's so important for competitors to know one another, know your competitors, know how they typically race, so you can not be surprised, so you won't be surprised by the things that you see, and you can stay within your own race, then make decisions as to when you might need to make any changes. So this whole mindset right here, and this is, you know, typically that's my focus, because it's all about competition. This time it's all just don't screw this up. Don't screw this up. So Jerome Young had been running really well also throughout the entire season, consistently running 44s, 44 low. He's on the outside, not a real fast starter, but pretty quick, so that was going to be helpful for me to have him out there. Ideally, Cardenas would be out there, but Perlea ended up running a pretty good first 200 meters as well, which helped me, and he typically doesn't. He was always a bit inconsistent. Sometimes he might get a good first 200 meters, sometimes he lays back a little bit. And Jamie Balch from Great Britain, also quick starter, runs fast through the first 200 meters. Much better indoors than he ever was outdoors, and that indoor, you know, aggressiveness that you had to have as an indoor 400-meter runner, he would just bring it up right up to outdoors. And so it was set up pretty well. It was probably set up almost as good as you could possibly have it for me for the world record, to have some fast starters and people who are going to run fast on the outside. Some of those guys also felt like, hey, Michael's been running really quick. They probably would have seen, or their coaches would have told them, Michael's running pretty quick. You need to just stay with him, you know, or try to outrun him through the first 200 meters. So focus right here. Yeah, this is all about that first 60 meters. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself when you're on the start line. I'm always thinking about the first thing that I need to do. After I've broken down the race into different components, I'm only thinking about the first part of the race, the first thing I need to do. If you start to get too far ahead of yourself and you're thinking about what you're going to be doing at 200 meters or 300 meters, then your focus isn't really in the right place.
They're off with Michael Johnson in lane 5, bidding for glory. into that characteristic stride. Cardenas of Mexico.
So there, Cardenas is just really running quick. I'm running quick, so the fact that he's making up some stagger on me initially means that he was running really, really hard. That was another key for me right there too. Going down that backstretch, not slowing down as much as I normally do, was a bit of a risk that we decided to take, and obviously paid off. But here, I know that I'm on world record pace. It's just a matter of my fitness, which I was always very fit. So I'm able to just continue to run away, not break form. That's the main thing. And you see me at the end there just trying to bring that finish line quicker and quicker because I could see the clock. You can see that the time is clicking off, and I want to get to that finish line under 43.29.
He has done it at last. We have been looking for this time from this man for years. Here in Seville, he's won his 4th world title, and he has taken that 11-year-old world record from Butch Reynolds. That seals his place in the history books.
I was pleased. I honestly, so coaching, I thought, I'm going to run under 43 seconds. That's what that was the other thing that I wanted that I didn't get. But, I was very, very pleased. I was relieved as well. I think in that moment, when I first crossed the finish line, I was just pleased. I felt it was a little closer than I expected to be. It was a 1/10 of a second, 1100ths of a second. And so again, like I said, as I was coming down the home stretch, I had my eye on the clock. And I could tell this is going to be closer than I thought. And that's why I was sort of leaning very early, trying to just get there to stop the clock before it gets to 43.2. So a little bit closer. So yeah, definitely relieved because I felt like, again, I thought I may have another chance to break the world record in 2000. But I don't want to chance that. This is the best opportunity, and especially given all of the injuries. So yeah, very relieved that I got it, and I don't have to carry this into the next season. And I was very pleased with the execution as well.